Hi everyone, Sean here. I mentioned it last week, but in case this is the first time you're listening to Shut Up and Take My Podcast, which... insanity. You could listen to last week's, however, I'll say it again. We are taking a few weeks off before we really hit into Season 7 of Futurama, so until then, part of what's happening at the moment is the trilogy of Context is Key with Chris and Ellen. Last week they talked about animation. This week they'll be talking about comedy, which is actually the shortest of the three, which is ironic because we're meant to be a comedy podcast. So maybe we're not as funny as we think we are. Shit.
Baby beard!
Waited for you, Fry!
This episode traumatized me as a young person.
My head is hurting again.
Where's my firstborn son?
God does not care about me masturbating.
Your singing is bad and you should feel bad. First get out into a bus, you're like, oh no!
Yeah, I don't like myself becoming the protagonist of this podcast.
You've been in
because you haven't learned anything. Okay, let's talk about the thing.
Let's talk about comedy. Where's your comedy? Where's your yucks come from? Mate?
Probably my dad.
Okay.
He was big on the kind of, I think like a lot of Australian humour is. There is that Ozploitation kind of humour, like Barry McKenzie and those kind of characters, similar to Irish comedy.
Sure.
But a lot of it is British. So you've got the kind of the divide, and I'm going to say it by using using the Python people.
Yeah.
Because a big inspiration of his was Monty Python.
Okay.
So when I was a kid growing up, I would be watching a lot of Monty Python, even if it wasn't necessarily appropriate for me.
Sure.
I'm thinking like a Holy Grail, not Holy Grail.
Life of Brian?
No, The Meaning of Life, where there's just
The Meaning of Life,
all
the
those
live...
naked women running through a field, and I'm like,
the man has
what
wished...
the fuck, Dad?
The man has wished to determine his method of death.
Yeah, chased by naked women off a cliff or something like that. Yeah.
I was thinking of the live liver transplant.
Oh God, yeah, that's quite horrible as well.
That fucked me up because I was too young and couldn't get it.
Oh, really?
So I couldn't get it.
That one didn't mess me up. The one that did mess me up is the what's his name?
Which moment is it?
It's the bath man. And
nice.
John Cleese is the waiter being like, it's just
where he explodes.
We're thin. Yeah, that was awful.
No, I didn't.
Hate that.
That didn't bother me at all because I got it.
Bothered me. So I got the transplant one.
Yeah.
So the Python divide, there's a really good example of this in, I think, Stephen Fry's autobiography, because half of the Pythons went to Cambridge College, half of them went to Oxford, right? And they said that you could tell the comedy stars based on who went where. So the Cambridge graduates, i.e. Chapman, Cleese, and Idle, they favoured more of the witty wordplay, the straight man, silly man. It's all very biting and satirical, and the script is really, really important, right? The words are what's doing the comedy here, the work. Then you've got the Oxfords, Palin and Jones, who are just like, I want a giant foot stamping down on things. And everyone's like, why? And they're like,
because it's funny.
It's funny.
Yeah.
And both of those styles are so meshed in Monty Python, where they do have like the really witty, linguistic jokes.
Yes.
And then they've just got pure surrealist fun.
Well, I think one of my favourite moments of their work is the monster of the Beast of R. That, because what that is...
Was he dictating?
It's wordplay.
Yeah.
It's a tight script. It's really clever. And then it resolves itself through animation, absurd animation, and then an absurd conclusion, which is the animator suddenly
died of a heart attack whilst drawing this,
and the animated monstrosity was no more.
That's great.
Like it's just a clean, absurd kind of moment, informed by animation and a clashing of style. That movie actually has a really lovely examples of those. The
interval one,
yes.
It's just got a lot of fucking, Monty Python was a thing that was often quoted around my house. And then I think from that, because I watched a lot of that really young, so then that flavoured a lot of my comedic stylings. And so after that, I was watching, I think Black Books was kind of one of the first series that I really discovered on my own. And I fucking fell in love. I devoured it. I still to this day will just watch the whole. I think I've watched the DVD with commentary on almost as many times as I've seen all the episodes, and I've seen all the episodes a whole bunch. And I was so obsessed with this when I was a kid, actually, that I would read the scripts, just read the scripts and kind of like do it myself because I was just a fucking little fucking.
You were
actor.
a performer.
I was a performer, and I was like, but also it's just Black Books is it's that similar thing. Like the script is really tight. But also, it's tight in that it's left in these completely absurd, just very strange jokes. Like one of my favorite ones is Dylan Moran talks about. There's an episode where they buy some books of Freud. Yes. And so the whole thing, they're psychoanalyzing each other, which works great because the Bernard Manny relationship is really fucked up anyway. Because it's like in a previous episode, they've done it in that they're father and son. And then in this one, it's more like they're bickering lovers. So it's all fucked up anyway.
Is that season 3? I'm not so
No, season 2.
Oh.
Season 2.
What's the side plot happening there?
Fran is doing yoga.
Oh, yeah.
That's why.
Yes.
With the lovely
And she
Jessica
keeps sneaking
Stevenson.
chocolate.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I remember. Very good.
There's a great bit where Manny's preparing a chicken. He's stripping a chicken. Like,
that's right. And he does the little strip
and he
tease.
starts to do a tease.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then Bernard just like is watching him from the doorway, goes, "What are you doing?" And Manny like scrambles because he's got this chicken on a pole. And he goes, just stripping the chicken. And in the commentary track, Dylan Moran is talking about how he's like, when I wrote this scene, I had to run this by our producer, someone I trust very much, because I thought I was going insane. And it's just laughing maniacally at this image of just someone using like a dead chicken
as a stripper. That's excellent.
Yeah,
I'm
Black
glad he
Books.
liked
I
that.
fucking love that show.
I love that show too.
And Spaced as well, to then...
Yes.
Because then I found Spaced through Black Books because I was obsessed with all those actors, and I was like, oh, and they all...
Sean Penn.
Yep.
Simon Pegg.
Simon Pegg.
Sean Penn.
Nick
Simon
Frost.
Pegg. Yeah, Nick Frost is in that as well.
Season. He's got a Subbuteo player in his hair.
His hair. Little man in his hair. I didn't remember the password. What? Little man in his hair.
He had a Subbuteo player in his hair. I wasn't listening. Which is just a great joke in and of itself.
Very good joke.
Why? Why?
The hair, Manny. The hair.
So then I found Spaced from that, which is like amazing because Edgar fucking Wright.
Yes.
Yeah. Really recommend everyone should watch Spaced at least once.
So that's your formative comedy.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that stands out to you right now?
Right now?
Or has led to?
Gosh. I don't know what
if there's a big like favorite.
Yeah.
Because that's your formative stuff.
Yeah.
Is it your favorite? Or
I think it's still my favorite. Yeah. And I think a lot of stuff like that has aged well because it is like there's some Python stuff that I don't like anymore, but most of it is just pure silliness. Like and a lot of it is just looking at the world that we live in and going, how fucking ridiculous. Things like the argument sketch. Brilliant.
Yes.
And also just on a bigger scale, Life of Brian.
Yeah.
It's a really good
satire
way of using comedy as a tool.
Yeah.
And I think it's as universal as it was when they made it. Not a thing has changed about organized religion and the way people
and politics and life.
Politics, yeah. And also people reacting badly to satire, sadly, hasn't changed.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, I think maybe my comedy style was still very much informed by when I was a kid, which is fine.
And you're a SpongeBob fan.
And I'm a SpongeBob, but that's it's a similar thing. Yeah. It's just the absurdism, but I don't really I feel like the way those shows use absurdism, it still comes from a place in the story. I don't just it has to be absolutely fucking random, or it has to be somewhat informed by the story.
Yeah, sure.
And it's a very fine line that you walk with that kind of stuff. You use it too often, and then you become the parody of Family Guy that we know, where it's like, oh, remember that?
You got to take out Hitler, and then he's just juggling shit. I often get what they're trying to do. I just don't think it's clever anymore.
And to this day, I cannot stand cringe comedy.
Sure.
Never have, never will. I'm a very empathetic person, so the moment I see someone even it's fictional characters, but it's like, oh, let's laugh at this person.
So Mr. Bean?
Mr. Bean was never like a thing for me. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
I found that very hard to watch.
I don't find it cringy because Mr. Bean
I did.
doesn't suffer any consequences and has no awareness of any consequences.
No, sometimes.
Okay.
There was a moment where he gets locked out of his room and is naked. So he places an exit sign on his butt and an enter sign on the front to cover his nudity. I think I'm remembering that right. And I couldn't watch it because I felt so empathetically like I was that was too much for me. I was like, I feel secondhand shame so much.
Right, yeah.
Then I had to excuse myself from the room.
Yeah, for me it was more stuff like any Larry David stuff. Or is it Larry David? Larry Davis. Curb Your Enthusiasm.
I don't mind it because you don't mind. What's that show? Always Sunny.
I don't, but the characters are so shitty that it's almost like, wow.
So it's kind of comic.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they are the worst people in the world.
Yes.
So it's kind of like, all right.
All in one bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, cool. Okay.
Yeah. But otherwise it's just like, I just don't want to watch people suffer. Really.
Anything jumping out to you contemporary?
Not really. I love John Mulaney.
Yeah.
I think
so. Stand up.
Yeah.
Some stand up.
But some stand up. Hannah Gadsby was like a revolution in the way that I see fucking comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think largely. Otherwise, what I've liked in comedy is comedy that is not punching down, which is all too often in stand-up. Especially when you have entitled men standing up to a microphone and being able to say whatever the fuck they want.
I was going to say, because that's a common phrase, I don't think we have to explain it, but I'm just going to move my microphone. Do you want to? Just so that
punching down?
Yeah, to explain what punching down is. For those few who don't and who don't want to Google it.
Yeah, because comedy really should be punching up at sources people in power, establishments. It's kind of like it should be a fight the system kind of thing, right? But when you're punching down, you're making fun of people who are already disenfranchised, who are othered, who are minorities.
So it's punching down is finding the yucks, finding the comedy in people's misfortune who are already marginalized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas punching up is going, let's bring these fuckers down. And I think largely a lot of my comedy is just the similar thing. Clever wordplay, people doing clever... I like cleverness. Like, Bill Bailey is a favourite comedian of mine because he's so fucking talented. I hate him. I hate him and his perfect fucking pitch. And he does song parodies that are like... He's completely decontextualized what makes a song of that specific artist, has made a parody song that could be one of their songs.
Have you heard his rendition of the American anthem played in a minor key? It's wonderful.
I think he did that when I saw him live to the ABC.
The ABC theme song?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It was hilarious, yeah. But he does things like that, which is like it's something that everyone can laugh at because it's just pure fucking... It's someone who's very clever who can then take something apart and then show it to you in a completely new way.
Yeah.
Which I really love that. I love John Mulaney mainly because his stuff is so niche that you wouldn't think it would be universally funny, but it fucking is. And I think it's because of that specificity where he's like, this thing happened to me when I was 5, and you're like, fuck yeah, John Mulaney. It didn't happen to me, but like, I'm with you.
I understand things happen to people when they're 5. I get it.
And a similar thing in that his stuff doesn't punch down. It waves its arms around in like a
flounder in like a help
floundering in the pure helplessness of our modern society.
Is it because he's is it that
long-limbed? Yes.
Is it that, well, I was going to say, is it that he's helpless, that it's empathetic?
Possibly.
Like that he's vulnerable and kind of open, and that's why it's and he invites you to laugh.
He is absolutely very open.
I've not seen any of his work. So.
He even has a joke about that where he's like, look at my posture. I'm literally so open and vulnerable to the world, where his feet are a little bit outturned.
Oh, no.
And he makes a joke about his wife, because she's like he's very tall and she's very short. She's like a short little bossy Jewish lady. And he's talking about, because he was like, I asked my wife if I could joke about her, and she said yes. But she said, you're not allowed to say that I'm a bitch and you don't like me. And he's like, whoa, the bar is set so low. He's like, and also, what even joke would that be? My wife is a bitch and I don't like her. And he goes, my wife is a bitch and I like her so much. And he talks about how she goes like through life with an air of like, it's, you know, she's determined and like people don't fuck with her.
Yeah.
And he goes around walking like, you could literally pour a bowl of soup on me and I'd apologize to you. It's just like, yeah, I love that kind of dynamic. Where It's just like, we're all idiots, aren't we?
Yeah.
Aren't we?
Please?
People? Yes, but also Nanette was just a stand-up comedy will never be the same again, and I'm so grateful.
Stand-up kind of milestone, touchstone.
Absolutely, because it's
I still haven't seen it.
It's doing the same thing though that I liked about Bill Bailey and all those other fucking clever, talented comedians, where they just show you. It's like seeing a magician do a trick and then show you how that trick works, where you're just like, oh my God, like you're fascinated by the machinations of it.
Yeah.
And for what's something that seems like almost magic, like what makes a joke funny? And she goes through that and she completely, first like quarter, I would say, it's kind of like traditional stand-up. You're like, oh my God, this is really funny. And then she flips it on its head and goes, this is how I did that.
Yeah, right.
And this is what I didn't tell you about.
Yeah.
And
and then it goes on a turn.
Yes, because it talks about how comedy kind of stunts us.
Oh.
Right? Because we use our personal trauma for comedy, which truncates it from being something with a beginning, middle, end. And comedy is 2 points. It's a setup and a punchline. So then if you're taking out the middle part, essentially.
The experience of it.
And you are rushing straight to the end. And when you do that with your own stories, then you are not allowing yourself to properly
deal with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch the show now.
You should. It's
I should have already, but
get around to it. What about you? What do you find? What do you do for laughs?
So a lot of what you said in terms of formative is very similar to me. My parents had a very kind of, I don't want to say this and come off or like embarrass my parents or anything, but
they don't listen.
No, I mean they might.
Oh no.
On reflection, I think don't worry, I've made too many sex jokes for them to listen. They had a sense of comedy that was snobbish, a sense of comedy that was a little bit entitled, and it wasn't a taste thing; it was an entitled thing. So American comedy bad,
English
British comedy good.
Yep.
So I grew up on shows like Black Books, just that's Mr. Bean, Keeping Up Appearances.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That sort of media and that sort of comedy was what I grew up on in my like under 10s. At around my like 9 to 10s plus, I started getting into American comedy. So shows, and mainly through cartoons. So shows like The Simpsons, which, you know, I think we're both remiss in not keep putting it on our animation.
Fuck, whoops.
But that's all right.
I thought it was too obvious.
No,
anyway.
yeah, exactly. I did too, honestly.
It would be cheating.
Futurama and The Simpsons are very informative to our like animation. Oh, actually, you know what? We didn't put on shows like BoJack Horseman and the Netflix originals that have come out recently.
Oh.
I'm a big fan of those. Anyway, shows like The Simpsons, shows like Daria.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
How did I forget Daria?
Daria
Anyway,
was really important
Daria's
to
amazing.
me. Shows like Are Real Monsters. Shows like Hey Arnold.
Yeah.
And The Wild Thornberrys.
Yes.
Shows like Rugrats. So a lot of my... And potentially that's where that kind of snobbery came from. So American comedy, to us at least, came in, I'm going to say 3 main vehicles. Mm-hmm. Film. Yep. Films like The Mask and those sorts of slapstick American comedies. Mm-hmm. Then you had cartoons. So your Nickelodeon cartoons or your Fox cartoons.
Yeah, where they're all American in nature.
Yeah. And then you've got sitcoms. Mm-hmm. So Friends and... Others. Shows that
Shouldn't it be Others and Friends?
Yeah, Others and Friends. I was too young to watch shows like Will and Grace and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or even like older shows than that, like Sex and the City, but and which are all, you know, sitcoms. Shows like but shows that I did see. So those were the 3 forms that I got it from. Film, which was generally like looked down on because it was slapstick. Mm-hmm. So, like...
Not sophisticated,
but occasionally not bad. So I'm trying to think of like good movies the good comedies that I liked growing up that were films, and I can't think of any.
I'm just thinking of other Jim Carrey ones.
Yeah, I can't even.
I'll tell you one of mine.
Yeah. That
definitely American in flavor.
Yeah,
it's the Blues Brothers.
It's
not so much it's a mashup of many different genres. It's a lot, and it's also over 3 hours.
Yeah, it's long.
And I would watch that film almost like once every fortnight. That's how much I loved it. Yeah. Which comes from the Saturday Night Live culture.
We didn't watch comedy films growing up. It was for TV, I think. I'm trying to think back into like the case of VCRs that we had, and we didn't have many comedies.
What about Robin Williams ones?
No.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Maybe Jumanji. But again, that's comedy drama. Like,
they're all blends, aren't they?
There was nothing really that was straight comedy that I grew up on. Not until like 2005. And by that age, I was like 14. So then TV that I got to watch that informed my... it did inform my comedy sensibilities because I grew up on it. Shows like... What's that? Ray Romano's show.
Oh, Everyone Loves Raymond.
That was one.
Yep.
A show that I genuinely actually kind of fondly liked was Home Improvement.
Oh, yeah.
With Tim Allen. Yeah, I look back on that and I think
a lot of people have fond memories, no?
Quite like it.
It's quite popular.
Yeah, those sorts of shows. And Friends. I didn't actually see Friends much at all when I was growing up. But the majority of American comedy came through animation and English comedies, shows like Black Books, Father Ted. But my comedy sensibilities really didn't start until... I don't really consume much comedy.
You weren't a funny...
Not really. I didn't really... Comedy was always something to have on the side.
Right, okay.
So, like, I would go to friends' sleepovers and they'd put on, like, anger management or, like, like Billy Madison or something like that, right? And I would get so bored. I was so bored by this stuff where it's just like, oh, this is a comedy. I'm supposed to laugh my way through this. Yeah. And I couldn't get it. Yeah. Like, I didn't want to either.
I think comedy can be quite divisive.
Yeah.
In that manner, which is why it's generally better to rent a horror movie.
No, not a horror. A thriller for me.
Oh, right.
You like horror. I don't.
I do like horror. But also if you get a real shit one, then you can all make fun of it.
That's true. That's true.
I remember watching like the whole... Me and a few for a group of friends, we were trying to get through the whole Saw franchise.
Oh, God.
There were less back then. I think there were maybe 5.
I just don't like the films, but...
Ridiculous. They're ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh,
they're terrible.
They all sound awful.
And there was also a reality TV show called Scream Queens that I used to love watching, where the winner got to be in the next Saw film.
Oh, my God. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
It's ridiculous. It's awful.
I remember there was a show called like Prom Queens or something like that.
Yeah.
That came out recently, like last 3 or 4 years.
Okay. Reality TV? Or?
No, it was a comedy drama horror film.
Ooh.
A horror TV show. So it was set in a university and like it was a bunch of teenagers at a university and they like there was a murderer going around.
How do I not know this?
It's really interesting. I'll link it to you.
Yeah.
But I think it didn't get renewed. I think it only got one season. Which I as someone who doesn't like horror was like, this is fun. I like this.
Yeah.
But I find comedies really easy to consume in bite size. So I like television comedy.
Yep.
One of my favorites is Tim and Eric, awesome show, great job. It's free real estate. Is one of my favorite lines.
2
of all time.
bedrooms, no rugs.
Scott, pull him back. To me, Tim and Eric is one of the funniest shows. That sort of comedy is really lovely to me. The showrunner of this series is back. Hey, Sean.
Well, don't mention him.
Oh, no, I'm calling him out. I'm sure. Yeah, I know. No, we're still in comedy. We haven't even touched sci-fi.
Don't at us.
I know. You are the showrunner. You can do whatever you want. We also are in your room and you want to
I
bed.
live here.
You can. You just still live here.
That's true.
Yeah, animation for me was always where I found comedy. So shows like
very
The Simpsons.
consumable.
Yeah, I like my comedy in kind of 20-minute bits. That's why I really like YouTube comedy. So I watch a lot of Game Grumps. I watch a lot of like Bo Burnham.
Yep.
Those sorts of wacky, hijinksy sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That's confined to 20 minutes.
And then you can edit edit it as well so that it runs really quickly together.
Yeah, exactly. Those are sort of my favorites. That's where my comedy sensibilities come from. I like wordplay, but I also like you, I think I like a little absurdist stuff. I don't terribly like slapstick. Not that I'm against it. I'm just not a big fan.
I like my favorite example of slapstick is like, it's not even in the episode itself, but it's in an outtake of Parks and Rec, where Chris Pratt.
When he breaks the light switch?
Yeah. He's like, and I stole this dude's briefcase, and then he has to throw it away. And in throwing it away, it hits the light switch perfectly so that it flicks the lights off, but also has shattered the wall on impact. And everyone's just standing there in the dark, just going,
what do we do?
I think Rob Lowe just says, that is so fucking funny. Anyway, is that comedy?
Yeah, I think that's comedy.
Sweet.
Have you recorded ever with Sean in the room sleeping?
My room.
I know.
We're not complaining about you sleeping.
We're not right into the record either. We're just doing preamble.
Yeah, so sorry.
We do 8 minutes of preamble.
Look, this is how I fall asleep every night to your voices.
Really?
I put on some preamble from an old episode. And
Are you fucking with us?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Everything, like 50% of what you say is either
bullshit.
Yeah.
That's if Sean and I are in the room, there's like a 75% chance that what we're saying is bullshit.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to contact us, you can do so by emailing us at babybeardmedia@gmail.com. Our socials are Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram @babybeardmedia. And if you're looking for a way to support us, the best way you can do it is by jumping onto iTunes or the podcast app and giving us a 5-star rating and a nice review. Goes a long way to helping us. Otherwise, if you'd like to join us next week, we'll be listening to Chris and Ellen tackle sci-fi. That's kind of sci-fi-ish. Yeah. Sci-fi.